Hi guys, welcome back to Orchid 101. I have not had time to talk to you guys in quite a few. So today I'm back because I was watering a few of my Vandas, and as you guys know from previous videos that I have done, I do water my Vandas on a daily basis because they do grow their roots. They just hang freely, so I do have to water them on a daily basis. And I noticed that one of my no ID Phalaenopsis had a leaf on the floor, and I thought it was kind of weird because the leaf, as you guys can see here, this is the leaf that was on the floor, and it's a quite a healthy leaf. I mean, it was a green leaf, it's super shiny, it's very thick and stern. So I really wasn't sure, why this leaf had just fallen off the orchid, off the plant by itself. But then as I was inspecting it, a little bit more, I noticed that at the end of the root, of the leaf, and I'm actually gonna put gloves on because I don't want to touch it. I already touched it a little bit, but I don't want to touch it anymore with just my bare fingers. But at the end of the leaf, it didn't feel right. The leaf was kind of squishy. If you guys can see there, it's like really squishy, just really soggy, deteriorating. So it's just really wet. And then I went over to the orchid itself, and now this is the orchid. And I went ahead and touched another leaf, and this is the second one, and it just kind of fell off on its own. And this one was even more soggy, more deteriorated, very wet. If I squeeze it, you guys can see like all the water that's just dripping down the leaf. So I got really worried because see all the water that's just dripping on it. Now, I've explained this before in other videos, and I don't know, for all of those of you that are new to my channel, orchids are all different. Phalaenopsis orchids store their water in their leaves. That's why when I'm squeezing this, you see that the water's just dripping down because all the water is stored in their leaves. Unlike dendrobiums and oncidiums, they store their water in their pseudobulbs. Well, Phalaenopsis orchids don't have pseudobulbs. They have, that's why they have these huge leaves versus the other orchids have smaller leaves. Phalaenopsis orchids, they store their water in their leaves. So here's what's going on here. And this is where today's topic comes into play. This orchid is in the beginning stages of root rot. Stem rot. The stem of the orchid right here, which is the crown, the middle of the orchid, is beginning to rot because at some point in time when these leaves were sitting like this, they create a pocket in the middle, and when I was watering it, there must have been some water left sitting right in that pocket. So that's obviously a mistake that quite a lot of people make, and this is the results of those mistakes. Unfortunately, we're not all perfect, so it's just things that happen. Now, as you can see, I'm gonna put this a little bit closer so you guys can see there is still a leaf, here that's a little bit softer. It's not gonna fall off just yet, but So as you guys can see, the leaf that's up here is still a little bit soggy. It is on the brink of probably falling off, but I can see from the back of it that it's not as soggy as those other two were that fell off. But to be on the safe side, what I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna go ahead and take this orchid out of its pot. I'm going to repot it because I have a feeling that, first of all, it's sitting in just plain sphagnum moss, which means it's accumulating, you know, it's holding in a lot of water. I didn't repot it when I first bought it from the nursery because it was still in bloom. It just recently dropped all its blooms, and I didn't want to repot it while it was still in bloom, so I think it's a perfect time to go ahead and repot it now. And I don't want it to sit in this sphagnum moss any longer because now the crown rot is starting to worry me. So we're just, see, look at all that water that it was just kind of holding in. As you guys all know, I do live in Florida. It is extremely hot in my climate. It has been raining. Wow, even the sphagnum moss is like really wet. It has been raining the last couple of days a lot. So because it has been really hot this spring, I have been watering my plants once a week. I did tone it down a little bit this past week because it was raining quite a bit. So, you know, this, and it hasn't been as hot. It's been really humid too. So with that, I think this is why that kind of also didn't help this crown rot here, because the sphagnum moss didn't have a lot of time to dry. Normally on a really hot day, which is what we had before this week, I mean, temperatures were getting up to maybe like 100 degrees, and I would water it, and like an hour or two later, the media and the sphagnum moss and everything was just dry within the 2 hours. So it was good because I didn't have to worry about my orchids being staying wet, or, you know, if I wanted to soak them for a little longer, I could, because they were going to dry right away. But because I watered them, and then that week, I normally water on a Sunday, and it started raining like immediately on Monday. I think that's what happened with this one, is that she just didn't have enough time to dry with the heat of the day, and the root rot, you know, the, not root rot, but the stem rot just kind of got to her, on top of the fact that I probably might have left a little bit of water sitting up there in that little dip of the leaves, causing it to also help the issue. So that's also not very good. So the good thing is that she has a really healthy roots. There is, you know, virtually no root rot whatsoever. She just has 1 or 2 roots here that just need to be trimmed off a little bit, which is normal. The whole root itself is healthy. It's just the ends that are a little bit dry from probably, you know, when it was extremely dry and sunny. They just got some sunburn, or they were dehydrated at one point. That's fine. I'm okay with that because she has a whole bunch of healthy roots. So I'm hoping that because of the healthy roots, her crown will also you know, survive and not get any worse. But we will just hope for the best here. So let's just clean her off a little bit more. She's healthier than I thought she would down here. Up here, I mean. Okay. I'm just going to toss all of this to the side. I'm actually going to grab a new pot for her. All right, I'll be right back. All right, so I got my new pot here, and I got my media. So we're just going to follow the regular repotting, you know, process. You guys can watch some of my other videos if you'd like for this step. I'm not going to really go much into details because I have talked about it before, so I don't want to bore you guys with the same, you know, content in my videos. So let me just position this support here. So I am using the large bark. I do have this in 2 different sizes. I like to use the large and the small. I use the small mainly for the smaller orchids because I just feel like it keeps them a little tighter in the pots. But I'm using the larger bark right now because I feel like it's going to give it more air. Also, because this orchid is struggling with too much moisture, and she's obviously she has stem rot, I just feel like the bigger bark is going to let it dry out faster. So we're just going to keep her in this kind of media for a little bit of time until I start seeing some progress in her stem, in her crown, and then eventually we'll, you know, adjust her to something different. We'll mix it up with my favorite mixture, which is obviously the sphagnum moss and the bark chips. But for now, we'll keep her in this mixture until she starts showing some progress. All right, so the next step is I'm just gonna wet the new media a little bit. Now, this is the step that I'm gonna show you guys for the future so that you guys don't go through the same issues that I'm having with this orchid. This is a step that I should have done to avoid this issue, but obviously I didn't. I always recommend watering your orchids with something that gives you a little bit of precision. The reason being is if you're watering your orchids with a large pitcher or a you know, something that's going to just throw water everywhere, you're going to have the issues of water getting into the middle of the leaves. You know, I'm going to show you with this bigger orchid here, into the middle of the leaves here, and just accumulating here, causing the issue that you guys see here. So to avoid that problem, I like to use one of those pitchers with the long nose. I don't know what you guys call them. I've shown them to you guys in previous videos that I have. If you guys can't find those, I have these pumps. They're like the fertilizer landscape pumps, as you guys can see here. And then I like to take off the tip of it. I leave it bare with no tip because it's easy for me to water with precision, and not get water everywhere, as you can see here. But in case you do, and I'm not going to throw water on her because obviously she's having an issue, but I'll show you with the bigger orchid here. I'm going to put her back in her, well, let me make sure she just drains out very well. But in case you do, get water everywhere because you don't have this type of tool to water your orchids with. And for example, you accidentally get water right in there in the orchid leaves and you just leave it there. Take a napkin and just put it in there. Try to dry it out as best as you can. Don't be afraid. If your leaves are healthy and they are thick and they are hard, just dry them so that you don't have the issues that I came across in that one. Now this part of the leaf, it's okay to wet, but especially right there in the middle, don't leave any accumulated water. I should have done this with that one when I might have not noticed that she got wet. It might have been water that was coming in. I have these orchids in a lanai, so it might have been water that came in with the wind and from the rain and just accumulated there a little bit. You know, little raindrops here and there. So I might have not noticed it, but unfortunately that's what happened. And now we just got to make sure that we just take care of it and keep an eye on it. But in the future, just follow these steps. Make sure you use a napkin or a cloth or whatever works best for you, and you just dry off your orchid leaves if you happen to get any water on them. But to avoid that and to avoid you having to work harder, try to work smarter. Get yourself something that gives you more precision and just water it a little bit easier, like so, where you can actually point to where you want to water your orchid, and it'll be a lot easier for you in the long run. And there you have it. So this is what the beginnings of stem rot looks like. I hope no one has to go through this because it is very, very hard to try to fix. Hopefully my efforts will correct this issue and not let it progress, but we will see, and I will definitely keep you guys updated. I hope you guys learned something from me today. As always, please follow us on Facebook. We do have a Facebook group. I have linked the link for the group down below in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe to my channel. And as always, thank you so much for being here. Bye-bye.